Public schools and universities are already considering the cancellation of school for the rest of 2020. We'll explain why that's madness, while still urging you to pull your kids out of public schools once and for all. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we're going to start by discussing why it's ridiculous to consider keeping public school kids home in the fall. It's only May. And so and I want to use this segment to address an email I got from a mom out there. Chels, C-H-E-L-S, sent us a nice email. We didn't include one of her emails into last week's question and answer, but she asked a really great question. And to summarize it, Chels asks, I watched the show, she said, and it's interesting that sometimes what's good for homeschooling or what would be good for parents, you actually try to defend. In other words, if we really want kids out of public schools, then shouldn't we not be offering advice on how the public schools can be fixed or criticizing the public schools and trying to get them to fix? It's a brilliant question. And the point of it is, I think, shouldn't we just back up and let the whole thing collapse? And that is true. I think that would be the best solution. However, we want to try to win the hearts and minds of moms and dads who are in public schools. We want to, and I would say this too, as bad as public schools are, not every kid comes out of them warped, right? And there are certain, it's nice if the public schools have band camp, band classes, or
You were not in band.
I was not, of course I was not in band. But extracurriculars like that are useful. I'm not denigrating that. And there are committed teachers who can find a way to give kids meaningful information in spite of the architecture of the public schools. However, on aggregate, we really need to get kids out of those public schools. So when I defend or try to like, this is a classic example here. Shouldn't you not want them back? We're about to do a story where we're going to explain why it's a ridiculous idea to keep kids home in the fall. And she's right to say, well, aren't you contradicting your own message? Because shouldn't we want them home? Yes. But given that most people will remain in these schools, we want to still meeting them where they are and calling out the foolishness. So that's kind of it's a great question. I wanted to throw that out there. Thanks, Chels, for sending that to us.
Well, and you also, just to piggyback a little bit on that, you don't want to win by cheating. You want to win outright. So you want to win the hearts and minds, as you said, not just, because it collapsed now, this is our chance. You want to actually get them to see the point of why they need to get out.
That's a great point, because anybody who criticizes big liberal institutions is immediately accused of wanting to see things fail. You're taking advantage of this, you radical right-wingers. You just want you're which is ironic, right? You think about the degree to which schools and governments have been taking advantage of the corona. Well, look at the new bill that Nancy Pelosi just put forward, $3 trillion. You got the Green New Deal. You're giving all sorts of goodies away to illegal immigrants. So you're doing all sorts of things that have absolutely nothing to do with addressing the people who are suffering. That's taking advantage. But I think Katie makes a good point. You don't want to. If they collapse and they go away the way they should, we want it to be because we have won the intellectual battle, that we have convinced parents that your kids are better off in every instance away from those schools. Just because they're going through a rough time now, to say that, rub our hands together. I think we are doing it. We're taking advantage as we can. We've pointed out a lot of stories where moms and dads are learning, right? We're going to have some this week, right? How moms and dads are waking up to the idea that having the kids home through no fault of ours, through the virus's fault, they're beginning to see that it's not as complicated as it seems. So it's a really good point you made.
All right, so it's ridiculous, as the headline says, why it's ridiculous to keep students home from school in the fall. And this is out of the Federalist. Paulina Enck wrote this, and it's basically the entire article is discussing, it's May. We have till September. We have time to figure this out. Why are we already saying, well, maybe we should keep them home in the fall? One person who's saying, we need to open the schools is President Trump.
This is a disease that attacks age, and it attacks health. And if you have a heart problem, if you have diabetes, if you're a certain age, it's certainly much more dangerous. But with the young children, and students, it's just take a look at the statistics. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I thought Paulina's, it was a good article, but it just seemed, I read it, I kept saying to myself, this is common sense. I mean, there's nothing
It's
even
not so
remotely.
common.
It's not so common. There's nothing even remotely moving about the arguments. I mean, here we are in May, and to try to decide what we're going to do in September is ridiculous. And the people who want to decide now to cancel things are the ones who are taking advantage, right? Yes. In Wisconsin, we have Governor Tony Evers. You may remember that in Wisconsin, the stoppage of work, the mandatory quarantine was overthrown by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So what is Tony Evers doing now? He's trying to go back legislatively and give us 157 days with no school,
yep.
and then another 200 days. He wants to go basically an entire year. This is what they do. Even when the Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin steps in and says, you have violated the Constitution of Wisconsin, you have violated the United States Constitution, rather than give it up, he's trying to find legal ways he can extend for almost a year the time the kids will not be in schools.
And at least going back to here, Paulina's argument, like you said, it's very common sense, and it's talking about college campuses and talking about how college is more than just the classes. Her argument is that we need to open the colleges because the reason a lot of kids, and you've argued this too, that they're going is to get that social experience, to be able to be in performing art groups or sports or clubs or any of that other things. And you can't do that if you're sitting there on the computer watching your Zoom sessions.
Well, even more than that. At the college level, I think online education works really well for high school and middle school. But at the college level, I mean, I find that it's impossible to have the same level of intellectual engagement. If you want to give college kids college level work, and we damn well better want that, then online education doesn't work at the college level and it needs to go away.
You definitely need to do something at least to get these kids more engaged, because you've talked about how half of your kids are there just to goof off, but
not paying attention. Yeah,
but that you need to be in a classroom having actual good face-to-face discussions. So debates, if you will. Whoa.
Well, we don't do much of that.
If we could do that back then.
We have to be in college. We have to be in class to listen to what the liberal professors have to say.
Moving on to the next story, we're going to take a look at the AP exams, because it's May. It's that time of year when our mostly seniors, but sometimes juniors and seniors in high school are going to take these advanced placement exams so that they can earn college credit. Well, because of the corona, they've decided that the AP tests are going to be taken at home on their computer. It's basically just a 45-minute essay, which it used to be hundreds of multiple choice and then free response and all that. And every test supposedly is going to be, working perfectly well. But as I'm hinting at now, it already has gotten messed up in the first week.
Yeah, the advanced placement, it's pure corruption. I don't think we should have them, to tell you the truth. I get it. You're a mom and dad. You want your high school kid to take, as a senior, a 2-semester class that gets them out of having to pay college tuition for a history class. Ask yourself, Mom, do you want your kids to know history, or do you want them just to get out, right? If what you want is to save a little money and get rid of history, your kids aren't going to learn anything. I mean, there's a reason one of the few things we do in colleges that I think is still correct is we require kids to spend a little time studying things that they wouldn't choose themselves. I think it's a good thing that the average math major, the average chemist, the average nurse student is going to have to take a couple of history classes. I think it's a good thing for them. Even if those history classes are spun all the wrong way, you can still, if you're an interested student, find ways to read against the grain. So, first of all, I disagree in principle about these classes. I mean, I get that college is too expensive. Let's reform the colleges. Let's not let's not let high school teachers give you college credit for courses that not only have no college intellect behind them, they're even more politicized, the AP, than the colleges are because of who's in charge of them. And who's in charge of them, Katie?
Oh, I think there's this guy named David Coleman. And what did he say back in the day, talking about this Common Core and how he runs the College Board now after doing Common Core? What did he say back in the day?
And just so you know, in case you're not paying attention, David Coleman is the architect of Common Core. He's the guy that Barack Obama tapped to oversee the creation of the Common Core standards. He has no educational background himself. He's not a teacher. He's never been a teacher. He knows nothing about educational pedagogy. Like Bill Gates, he's somebody who just was in the right place in the right time. Bill Gates had the money. Coleman was a total sycophant toady for Obama. He oversaw Obama's PR campaign, social media campaign, when he ran the first time in 2008. He was successful manipulating younger people to vote for Obama, and so therefore he's in charge of your kids' education. And Katie's right. Let's play this clip reminding you what David Coleman said your teachers were going to be required to do.
Teachers will teach towards the test. There is no force strong enough on this earth to prevent that.
So that plays in very well, because I'm going to read you part of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel's article talking about the AP exams. Over the 14 years, Adam Wiskerchin has taught advanced placement psychology. He's become something of an expert in predicting the concepts and skills that students may see on the high-stakes exams every spring. The Preble High School social studies teacher has conducted an audit of a decade's worth of exams, analyzing which terms most often appear in the multiple choice and free response essay questions on the test. It's not an exact science, but Wiskerchin said it helps him narrow the focus of his class and the review materials he gives students. But this year, as the coronavirus pandemic continues to rock the education world, Wiskerchin doesn't know what to expect, because starting Monday, his students and millions of others face AP exams that will look nothing like those from years prior.
And there's something really disgusting about his admission, right? That I'm finding out the best possible ways that I will teach what the authorities want me to, right?
Exactly.
That no curiosity. This is why you shouldn't let high school teachers teach college, because the import of this is psychology is a huge field. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all aspects of psychology that might be useful, meaningful, or that I know better than others, to simply try to rig the system so the kids are getting over and over again in class that which I know will be on the test. It's not ideal at all.
So the window for AP tests this year was May 11th to the 22nd. So kids have already had a week. The exams are 45 minutes, web-based, free response exams. The exams are offered during a 2-hour testing window. So students, even if you're around the world, there are some American students living in Japan, may have had to take their test at 3 a.m. They had to wake up and take their test. So it's being precise, and they're supposed to earn this credit. But even though they claimed, they developed a number of security measures, including, making the exams open note, plagiarism detection software, and teacher review of student responses. Even though all that was set in place, that technology failed them already in week 1, because students are already unable to submit their exams. It's getting messed up. So CNN just reported that the College Board is aware that some students had difficulty completing their tests. They think it could be a, quote, outdated browser, and that there was a junior from Florida they reported on. She had 45 seconds left to submit, and she's videoing a blank screen. And she's like, I can't submit my stuff. So they're going to have to redo the exam in June.
What's going to happen is the reason they're giving these tests at all, which they shouldn't be, because they already know the tests have nothing to do with what they've learned. But the AP can't afford to lose those students. The advanced placement scam, right? And it's a total scam. The advanced placement scam needs to they can't go a whole year without giving the test or giving kids their credit. This is all David Coleman saving his butt and making sure he gets his big fat CEO of the College Board's paycheck. That's all this is.
On to our next story, and we're going to head out to Colorado, where Colorado children in kindergarten through 3rd grade now can just watch TV to get their literacy. Recently, Governor Jared Polis announced the Read With Me at Home program, and he said in a press release, this programming will be available to families across Colorado to help close the digital divide and prevent learning loss during this critical time for children.
Yeah, in the first place, when did we decide, and it's a mark of how low our standards are, we've now decided that reading to kids is the same thing as teaching them how to read. You get all these celebrities out there who can't possibly work now, sitting in their $1 million compounds, right? Not bothered in the least about the shutdown, because we have to do this for the kids.
But they're
right?
bothered in the sense that their own maids and them can't come in.
Maybe that right?
way.
Although, look, I'll bet you every penny I own that Joy Behar's house is being cleaned by her maid. She's going to work, I guarantee it. And so that's one of the great disconnects is you got all these celebrities now who are attacking the patriots who want to go back to work. And there's none of the media ever reports the fact that these incredibly wealthy celebrities can afford to sit out a year's worth of doing nothing and still have $1 million in the bank. The rest of us can't. And that disconnect is so frustrating. But again, so when I see these celebrities reading to kids, okay, that's entertaining them. That's not really teaching them how to read. And is it my imagination, or have kids supposed to have been going to online school ever since this ended. So now you're going to do what? Online school, but instead of online, it's on TV.
It's on public television. Yep, the public television program will include 4 consecutive half-hour literacy segments, each tailored to students at one of the 4 K through 3 grade levels. Colorado teachers are going to be leading the lessons, which are set to air between 8 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, starting today, May 18th. The lessons are going to be broadcast in English with Spanish subtitles, and accompanying lesson plans and student work packets will be available online.
Yeah, I mean, so in other words, you're going to do school online. Fair enough. And maybe the TV will be, you know, it would be, if you had the Muppets do it, maybe if the Muppets were teaching literacy, kids would learn something.
Yeah, we'll see that.
I don't know. I mean, okay, fine, do what you got to do. But again, in this time of trouble, kids aren't going to learn if moms and dads aren't teaching them. I'm sorry to say it, but simply you putting them on a TV screen is not enough if you're not engaging with them yourself.
Well, and we know this because even before the coronavirus pandemic hit, in Colorado specifically, more than half of the 3rd graders were not reading proficiently. So now you're going to plop them in front of the TV, which they probably already have been plopped in front of most of this time. And our mom and dad, is this an even greater opportunity to say, all right, here you go. Just watch TV, see what happens.
You remember when we were kids, or at least I was a kid, when Sesame Street wasn't so politicized and you would get all those great, it was all about literacy, right?
Yeah.
They would be spelling things out. They'd be singing songs about how I before E except after C.
Is that where I learned that from?
That's where you learned that, right? And so now they've gone much more sociological than they have education. But that really worked, didn't it?
That worked for me.
Me too.
I still remember the elephant song, the Scrub-a-Dub-Dub. Man, that was one of the best.
I remember when Cookie Monster sang Hey Food to the tune of Hey Jude. And Letter B.
I don't remember that one. I'm going to have to look that one up.
To learn all about I love the way they would pick one letter for the show, right?
Yeah, there was always a letter. Yeah,
letter B, letter B, letter. And that was classic.
Oh, of course. Well, just so everyone knows, these TV reading lessons actually came out of a partnership between the governor's office, the state education department, the Colorado Education Initiative, and Rocky Mountain PBS. So
here's a couple seconds of one of the Muppets singing one of those great songs.
Start at the front and I move to the rear and I say each sound out loud and clear. I go, I go,
It is time for some real education. Today, it's the Obelisco Piazza San Pietro Città del Vaticano, aka the Vatican Obelisk in St. Peter's Square. An obelisk is a stone pillar set up as a monument or a landmark. Obelisks usually have a square rectangular cross-section and a pyramidal top set up as a monument or landmark. The famous obelisk found in the vast courtyard of St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome was brought to Rome from Alexandria, Egypt in 37 AD. In 1586, Pope Sixtus V moved it to its current position before the cathedral, where it has stood as a beacon for tourists and the faithful ever since.
And take a look at this beautiful obelisk. And people ask the question all the time. It's right in the middle of St. Peter's Square there, the oval really. And what you see there, you can see it. There's the Vatican right behind it. There's St. Peter's Dome, which Michelangelo helped to erect. And there you have the obelisk. And there you see it again. It's just a huge thing. And people ask the question all the time, why would you have a pagan item like this in the middle of a Roman Catholic, the holiest site of Roman Catholicism? And the answer, I think, is because think about what that means. That obelisk was actually, it's about 84 feet tall. It's huge, made of red granite. The Emperor Augustus Caesar, it was erected in Heliopolis. And you ask yourself, the engineering feats of the Egyptians. The Egyptians managed to stand that huge thing up without cranes. And so the Emperor Augustus Caesar, he actually had it moved from Heliopolis to Alexandria, Egypt, where it stood until about 37 AD, when Caligula, the crazy Caligula, mad Caligula, liked it so much he had it dragged all the way back to Rome. And you imagine putting that thing on barges, right?
Jeez.
You had to take it down without breaking it, and then it took thousands of horses and men pushing it. Then you got to get it on barges and sail it across the sea. And it ultimately was set in one of the forums in Rome by Caligula. He put it in the circuit, what would come to be known as the Circus of Nero. It was moved to its current site in 1586 by the engineer Domenico Fontana under the direction of Pope Sixtus V. So in 1586, this was moved back to the center of what would become Vatican, the Ovato Tondo. Go back to one of those pictures, Mike. Right there, you can't see it. Right out in front of all of that is a big oval. The Ovato Tondo, which means in Italian, the round oval, is a big oval space. And at the center of that oval space is that obelisk. And it was, again, a huge project for them to be able to take that obelisk and to stand it erect. And it's really an object of remarkable beauty when you look at it. It is very sleek, and you go back to answering my question there. You take the picture on the left there. You can see it's on its platform. There it sits, and at the very top you have a cross. That was placed there much later. Initially, all through the Middle Ages, when it was in Rome, one of the ruins of Rome, there was a metal ball at the top of the obelisk, and they actually believed that the ashes of Julius Caesar were contained inside. Turns out that when they finally took that ball down, there was nothing but dust in it. But that begs the question: aren't ashes dust? Right?
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Nevertheless, the ball was removed from the top of the obelisk and placed in an Italian museum, and the cross that you see there now is in place. And one of the interesting things about this, too, is it's the only obelisk left standing in Rome.
Ooh.
I mean, there are hundreds of obelisks all across the world. The Egyptians used them, like they did everything else, for spectacle. But this is the only one that is not toppled in Rome. And I'll say this, too, to answer the question once and for all. Think about what this means. You have, by the time this was put up in 1586, you had 1,500 years of Christian culture. And right before that, you had 1,500 years of Roman culture. And before that, you had 3,000 years of Egyptian culture, right? And all of it's there in that beautiful obelisk, right? So what a continuity. That obelisk in the middle of St. Peter's Square is a testament to the endurance of Western culture.
All right, we made it through another Monday in May. As always, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And if you have a question for our Friday Q&A, visit freedomproject.com/askduke or send us a message on the social media. Now, we're going to wrap things up with our usual fun fact of the day, and it's actually more of a sad fact than it is a fun fact. I looked up the most ridiculous AP test answers that graders have come across, and here's one. For AP European History, a student had an essay question one year that they were supposed to answer describing the similarities and differences between the Protestant Reformation in England and Germany. And a student decided to write, well, in Germany, Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the church in Wittenberg. In England, Henry VIII nailed Anne Boleyn.
One of my favorites in that vein is Martin Luther was excommunicated by a bull. Also funny. And that's our show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. And until next time, stay educated, my friends.